From the East and the West, you've heard others, but now you've tuned into the best. This is a Prime Wave Media production, the NFL Bet Exchange, hosted by my man, Pop Dibiase, the primetime capper, and the Don of Cape Cod, Jeff Dawson.
All right, we are here, and it is time for the NFL Bet Exchange with none other than your man, Pop Dibiase, the primetime capper, and the one and only, the Don of Cape Cod himself, Mr. Jeff MMF Dawson. What's going on, man? How you doing, brother? How's everything going today?
It's been a crazy week, but I'm glad I'm here. I'm glad I got everything up. You know, things happen for a reason. One door closes, another one opens. So woke up this morning, my feet hit the ground. That means I got an opportunity to make a difference. 24 hours at that. So I'm here, blessed and honored, as we dig into the AFC NFC West, Mr. Pops.
All right. It sounds fun to me. It sounds like a go to me. We got the NFC West. We got the AFC West. I'm going to do it a little different today. I know I said NFC West first because we're going to go to the NFC first today. We usually start in the AFC, but the NFC is just so just the JV right now. It's almost like a senior circuit and junior circuit with the NFL, both these conferences. But it goes like that. In the 90s, that's how the NFC used to be to the AFC, even though the AFC probably had the better quarterbacks when you looked at it, but the better teams, defensive players, were in the NFC. So, you know, you have that working out for you and everything like that as well, too. But we have a team right now that we're going to talk about that everybody sees is probably the low-hanging fruit on the totem pole right now. And you know who that is. And that's going to be none other than the Arizona Cardinals. Arizona Cardinals are absolutely dreadful looking going into this season. You know, they have their quarterback is out for the year. They went 4-13 last season as well, too. They had a moment there where, you know, just nothing ever went right with their team from game one and beyond. And I felt like they just really had a real issue between head coach and quarterback. You know, they fell out of in love with each other because the only reason why Kyler Murray is the starting quarterback for the Arizona Cardinals is because Cliff Kingsbury decided to take that job and then smashed his hand on the desk to bring in Kyler Murray because he said Kyler Murray was the best player in the draft and that this was the type of quarterback that could take Arizona to the next level. Well, we're sitting here now almost 5 years later, and yes, it was a good situation to start, but with the maturity of the quarterback not being the type of mature that you need your quarterback to be, everything is pretty much backfired with this team. And then it got to the point to where his teammates didn't even like him anymore, to where pretty much he got hurt. And Chandler Jones literally called this out weeks before his injury happened, and then it happened. So, Jeff, real quick, what are your thoughts on Arizona in 2022, and what are your thoughts on what they need to do moving forward for this season?
My thoughts aren't pretty, but you know, here's the funny story about this is I remember last year at this time, there was a team in Seattle that we're going to talk about that was projected the same way. Russ had left the building. There was a team in transition, a team that had a lot of first and second round picks, a lot of holes, incomes, you know, Geno, which we all laughed at. And then, you know, they were the most bet under in the NFL last year. And they got there over probably at week 6 or 7. They came out guns a-blazing, and the rest was history. This team, though, Arizona, a head coach that probably should have been fired last year, but they gave him an extension. They paid Kyler Murray, who wants to play Fortnite versus reading the playbook. A guy, as you said, and I think you hit it well, when he played and when was healthy, was dynamic. You know, they added D-Hop as Fitzgerald faded off into the sunset. A good defense, nicknamed Desert Swarm, but the pieces started to fall apart. This year, I don't expect Kyler Murray to play at all this year. I think they're definitely in full tank of Palooza for Khalib or the quarterback from UNC, May. For fantasy purposes, James Conner's getting drafted. I think they're just going to run him into the ground. Rondell Moore, who's always injured. I've taken some late flyers on Michael Wilson, the wide receiver, who's shown some flashes in preseason, but there's not much to look forward to. But the funny thing is, one of the next teams that we're going to get to is also looking that bleak. So maybe one of them pops. I don't think it's the Cardinals. If I was a betting man, I would say they will have the worst record in the NFL and the number one pick. So Arizona, you are now on the clock.
Well, everybody's already handing them Caleb Williams and handing them Marvin Harrison Jr. So they just all of a sudden we skipped everything, and we pretty much have put them already as the number one team in the draft slot, which they did with Houston last year, and you saw what happened with that situation by the end of the year. You know what I mean?
That was Lovey's fault.
Because he's been coaching way too long, and he knew he was getting fired at the end of the day, and he didn't care because he's a winner. You know what I mean? And winners ain't gonna go out being losers. That's all it is. We did enough losing during the season. We're gonna win the game. I'm sorry. I'm not leaving the NFL as a loser. I think that's always the best FU to a team that's firing you. Get a win on your last game out. You know what I mean? And pretty much with this team right now, you can see that they are very in the right spot. Over under 4.5. Division championship is at 25-1. Probably the longest odds of any team to win their division in any of these divisions this year. They do have the lowest amount of wins this year as well, too. And I totally think that it's absolutely on the spot on and on the money because this team doesn't have much, and whatever they had, they traded away. So they're sitting in a situation now where they're a team that really does have to figure out exactly what their future is going to be. The Cardinals look exactly like they did when they moved to Phoenix back in 1988. They look just like that team again, and they look lost. And they look like, they're going back into who the Cardinals truly are. You know what I mean? Because they got a nice stadium. They got everything going. And they had a good facade for us. But now reality is snuck back in. And the Arizona Cardinals are who we thought they were. One of the more
Neil Lomax quarterbacking?
Yeah, one of the more irrelevant teams in the NFL. It's that simple. Can we go get some Rosenbach going on? I love me some Rosenbach. Number 3, Rosenbach was nice. Remember him?
Well, we can go way back to Neil Lomax, or we can bring in Carson Palmer. I mean, we got a lot there. I mean, they brought over Dobbs, who is going to be their starting quarterback. So
Carson Palmer is a part of the good years. I'm talking about guys who had to play in 120-degree weather in September. Rosenbach and Jake Plummer and DeBerg. And because DeBerg played for literally everybody. So with that though, I truly do feel like we don't really have to worry about the Cardinals surprising anybody this year. And I always love an underdog, but this team is the truest version of an underdog. But one thing I'm going to say before we move on, and you can jump in, you can elaborate on this as well too if you want. Week 1, they're one of the biggest dogs on the board. Do not let that fool you, because the team that they're giving all those points to is a team that pretty much looks like a team that's probably going to be finishing last place this year. So don't believe the hype. That's really a 50-50 game, and that might be one of your biggest scores on opening day. I know I'm giving away something a little bit way too early, because just looking at me like you're not even saving it for week 1. But I'll go ahead and re-enter that phase come week 1 anyway, so it doesn't matter to me. at the end of the day. So that's something that you do need to look out for. It could be one of their wins of the season. You know what I mean? Because wins are going to be coming few and little this year.
We'll see if that number tips closer to 7. I don't think the Sharps are going to allow it. Yeah, it is a train wreck waiting to happen. I mean, there is a lot of hype with Howell, Dotson, and the rest of that crew. It's a number that's floating right around that 5.5 or 6. Everyone will have Washington in their suicide pool. Everyone will have them in money line parlays, in teasers. Just because we remember what we saw last. So again, as bad as Arizona is, there's always one or two of those week one upsets where the teams were just so bad in preseason, and then it's an entirely different team that shows up for week one. And when Kyler Murray and the boys were cooking with Crisco, they were an amazing team on the road. They were 7-1 that year on the road, and they were just but they were just ripping people's hearts out. They opened up in Tennessee, and then they won a couple other road games. That they owned Dallas. I mean, but this is an entirely different team. Maybe Kingsbury doesn't make it to the bye week. I don't know, but I would be, if I'm Washington, I would be on upset alert on week one.
Yeah, and we will see. We will absolutely see. So let's move forward because I think we spent a little bit too much time on the Cardinals, to be honest with you. Cardinals should have been about a 2-minute talk because we know exactly where this team is going, absolutely nowhere. So now it's time for me to talk about the local team over here, one of the local teams, and that's going to be the LA need to go back to Orange County until you want to become a good football team again, Rams. But they have the richest owner in sports, so it happens. You know what I mean? So you get to live in a great location, but you're playing real good Orange County football right now. So it would be much better if you went back over to the Big A. But you own the stadium, so you can do what you want. But this team was 5-12 last year. Very surprising of a Rams team. And you know what? The Rams were an absolute struggle fest because at one point I think they were 4-2 to start the year off. They were kind of rolling the first 6 weeks of the season. They were back, they were looking like the defending champs. They were having some good moments and everything like that. And then boom, they just started being cooked week in and week out and wound up going 1-10 on the way out. And that was absolutely terrible, Jeff. Let's keep it real. That's absolutely pathetic for a team that's coming fresh off of a Super Bowl. But it was expected because Matt Stafford was your quarterback. Matt Stafford is an elderly person in the NFL now. He's a senior citizen. And he's a guy who's one of the biggest liabilities that you can have on any team in the NFL right now because he has a bad back. And I think he has a bad neck as well, too. Bad shoulder, bad leg. All these things do not fit a team that's trying to keep being a successful team. I feel like the Rams know they shot themselves in the foot when they traded Jared Goff because at the end of the day, Jared Goff would have won the Super Bowl with that same exact team that Matt Stafford did. And they probably would have never made the game that as close as Matt Stafford made that game. Because Matt Stafford, when you look at him historically, Matt Stafford is a great stat quarterback. But when it comes to actually being a winner, he's below average in reality. He had a great roster. Let's keep it real. You're going to have Von Miller, a future Hall of Famer. Believe it or not, even though he's a big diva and everything like that, OBJ is going to get consideration for the Hall of Fame. So those are two names that I'm throwing out there right now. Cooper Kupp had himself one of the more legendary seasons for a wide receiver when you did win that championship. So there was a lot of things that went correct. And of course, one of the best players to ever step on a football field, Aaron Donald. So you had a lot of things going in the right direction for your team. Then when everybody got hurt, and then you really saw the way that this roster set up because you spent so much money on all these aging players, it's came back to bite you in the butt because you gave up assets to get players that aren't even on the roster anymore. And this became a big burden on this team. Now they got a bunch of young puppies out there as their backups, and it just doesn't look good for the Rams moving forward. And then you have the opportunity to get yourself a really good future signal caller, and you decided to go get a guy who's probably going to be a offensive coordinator in the next 4 years in Stetson Bennett. Yeah, I mean, that's the equivalent of drafting the OC from the Chargers right now. Same type of situation. Guy was an awesome 8-year college quarterback and won big championship games and all that stuff. And now he can come over and be a great clipboard holder, but leading your team back to relevancy, that's not going to happen. So pretty much the Rams right now, I'm going to just go ahead and keep it real. They're cooked. Okay. And they are a team, I feel like, Kroenke ain't mad now because he got the Super Bowl ring and all that good stuff. And Denver kind of distracted him with winning the NBA Finals as well, too. And then that other team he has as well, too, the Avalanche, they win a title. And damn, even his lacrosse team won a title. So he got so many championships, it might block the view of the mediocrity that's going to be on the field with the Rams. But the Rams are his biggest prize. They are in his best market. And he's not going to be accepting just losing for the next 5 years. It's not going to happen. So I totally feel that right now, Sean McVay is not on the hot seat, but he'll soon be getting there if they come out struggling to start the season where they're getting blown out in games. And if they're trying and losing by a couple points, then it won't be that big of a deal because you understand what you have. But if they start getting blown out, he's going to start getting pressed by the owner. Jeff, what are your thoughts on the Rams? I know I said a lot, but go ahead.
You're only as good as the top. And go back to the Super Bowl. Yeah, you didn't mention a running back that I was dear to for a while in the fantasy game, Todd Gurley, who had the flashes for a while. It was the perfect storm for them. And then the hangover. Now, after that year, though, Sean McVay had an opportunity to jump ship and go to Amazon for $18 million a year and get paid $1 million a year to do the Thursday night games. Was Stafford going to retire? Was Donald going to retire? And, they brought the band back. Von Miller leaves, goes to Buffalo. They sold off some of the pieces. And it was a year in disarray. And if you looked at them this preseason, it's just looks like they're playing it back. And this is a team that could probably get off to a slow start and then maybe sell off whatever pieces they do have left. I don't think McVay's heart's in it. I don't think Stafford's heart's in it. The revolving door of Cam Akers, I mean, they traded him. He comes back. Is Cooper Kupp fully healthy? That's the only player technically for high stakes or fantasy purposes going in the first round. A couple other guys, Van Jefferson and a few others that are getting drafted. But my point is their defense is putrid. They'll be just sticking their head above the Arizona Cardinals, I think. That's why the West is comical this year because it is a two-man race. But, and it's a big but, if we do get some Geno regression, it could be something where the Niners run away and hide, and they got quarterback issues too. But that 5-12 that they had last year, I can't see them winning 6 or 7 games this year either. So another bad year, and it will be interesting to see what McVay does. I think this will be Stafford's last year, and I don't even think Stafford makes it through the full year, Pups.
Yeah, I think that Stafford, honestly, is absolutely cooked. And when you look at what their odds are going into this year, 10-1, over under 6.5, there's not expectations for the Rams this year. The expectation is to be a bad team this year, and you're not going to have a first rounder next year again. So you're going to be kind of stuck. So if you can figure out a way to get the assets that you need during the season, because that's the type of team the Rams have to become this year. They have to look at who they have at the top of the board that they can move so they can get some assets back. I know Aaron Donald's untradeable, and I know possibly Stafford's untradeable because nobody wants him. But The thing is, I know that you got guys like Cam Akers who can bring you some value. You got a guy like Cooper Cup. I know it sounds crazy now, but he can bring you some value as well too. Cooper Cup is a guy that it could be on the twilight of his career, but nobody knows that yet. And people will still be in the Cooper Cup business if he does become available sometime mid-season. So that's something that they could work on to try to get themselves back into the first round to possibly get that quarterback. But I say if you still have a second round pick, you still got the possibility of still getting yourself a pretty good quarterback, because this is a very deep quarterback class going into this year's draft. So you don't have to worry about getting the first round golden boy. You can wind up getting yourself the Derek Carrs, Russell Wilsons in the second, third round, guys that are going to be good starters for you moving forward. You know what I mean? And there's a lot of, and then the Rams do have the look of a team that can actually go ahead and have a key free agent quarterback come into their team, because it's Los Angeles. It's SoFi Stadium. It's an attractive situation. And, you know, McVay is seen as an offensive savant somewhat. So pretty much that he can bring in anybody he wants if they want to buy into the Rams program. So we'll see how it goes. We'll see how it shakes out. But 10-1, some nice odds on a team that is 2 years removed from a Super Bowl. And really, we don't know who the hell they're going to be. Like, really, we don't. You know what I mean? But we got a good idea. And if I think like they're going to be cooked, then I think I'm on to something. Because usually when I say an LA team is going to be bad, they're going to be bad. I've never not been wrong about that. And that's happened with my Lakers, Clippers. So, well, Clippers ain't my Clippers, but you know what I mean, though, Jeff. So it is what it is at the end of the day. But all in all, that's what we do have. And so let's move forward and talk about a team that is a little bit more relevant. And that's going to be the San Francisco 49ers, 13-4, 2022 season. And they did it with three quarterbacks. You know, they started with Trey Lance, then they went back to Jimmy G, and then they went and had Mr. Irrelevant, who's just supposed to be a good bullpen, like middle relief. He was supposed to be a good babysitter, and he wound up getting himself the job because he's the guy that the coach can control. Very simple. And that's why he's the quarterback, because Kyle Shanahan wants to be the starting quarterback of the team, but he can't. So he's going to go ahead and put the controllers on and put Brock Purdy in there as the starting quarterback. Trey Lance is an ad-libber, and that was something that was killing Shanahan. Shanahan wants everything to go the way that he set it up in the way he structured it, because he's the greatest offensive mind to ever step onto a sideline, you know, because he is Mike Shanahan's son. So, you know, I'm going to let Jeff go ahead and kick this one off, because I know I've been talking a lot with the first two. So I'm going to let Jeff go ahead and kick off the 49ers for us real quick and see how it goes. Because, you know, 49er fans, they're watching the screen now like, you better not say anything bad or I'm about to be in them comments. So I'm going to let Jeff start it off first, because I'm probably going to have some choice words for them. Maybe.
No, it's a team that made it to the championship last year, a team that had no quarterback after the first possession. And at one point, McCaffrey at quarterback. Off-season, tried to trade Trey and then finally get him to trade it to Dallas. A preseason where Sam Darnold looked okay. So he is the backup to Brock Purdy, who I think came in with 7-0 regular season, and including a playoff win, and then obviously getting taken off the field in Philly, 31-7, I think, final there. On paper, the team to beat in the West. On paper, the number 2 team in the NFC behind Philly. You know, again, when I talk fantasy, I ask this question. I don't even have the answer. When was the last time a starting running back started the season for San Fran and finished the season? And they, you know, Shanahan goes through quarterbacks and goes through running backs like we do paper towels here. So offensively, loaded: Deebo Samuel, Brandon Ayuk, George Kittle, McCaffrey, Elijah Mitchell, Defense strong with Bozer and company. There's nothing you don't like about this team. They are going to go as far as their quarterback and McCaffrey and their defense. I think they win this division hands down. I'm expecting a little regression in Seattle. We'll talk about that next. But overall, Pops, I could see this team 13-4 is definitely in reach. 12-5. They open up in Pittsburgh, 3.5-point favorites. That's going to be a great game, opening week. But overall, I like everything about this team. Injuries will be the key step for these guys. If they stay healthy, they're going to be the team to beat in the NFC, Pops.
Well, I think that you got a good point with that, Jeff. I'm gonna be that honest with you. I think that is a good point right there that you do bring up, and I truly do feel that this team will possibly be a team that you will be able to circle as the NFC representative and be confident about it, right? But I'm not saying they're gonna get to the Super Bowl, but I'm just saying that you're gonna be confident about that. But I truly do feel that this season is gonna be a very overhyped season for the 49ers. I feel like there's going to be too much pressure on this team. They're treating Brock Purdy like he's Steve Young, Joe Montana reborn, and he could be, and it's more like Steve Bono to me. You know what I mean? Where's Steve Bono's number? Steve Bono had a lot of us fooled that he was a really good quarterback, and he got to Kansas City, and everybody saw that he was just an average quarterback. And I truly feel that the arm is cooked when it comes to Purdy because you heard no good things about what Purdy was doing in camp. Pick, getting sacked, being indecisive, being a little bit too cute because now the pressure is on. You're not the third string quarterback anymore. You're not working on the side and hoping that some offensive coordinator sees you busting out, but doing a Tom Brady. Now you got to perform like Brady. Those 6 games that you were looking like the next great San Francisco quarterback, the competition wasn't up to par. They were playing against teams that were not going to the playoffs, who were drafting in the top 10. Let's keep it real. Come on, let's keep it real. The best game he did have was beating Seattle in Seattle. I'll give him that. But that was more of the defense. See, that's where San Francisco is a really great team at, is because it's about their team. So really, you're just a plug-in player. But when you're a plug-in player, this is a danger zone as well, too, because you don't have those elements that really keep people confident because everything's almost robotic. And I know I got chastised about this from the Philly folks because I was talking about people being robotic and, their coach, everybody's some good robots. But, that team is a freaky good team. Let's keep it real. Yes, the Eagles are definitely the best on both sides when it comes to the trenches. But, they do have a control freak as their coach. San Francisco has a control freak as their coach. And that's why, they look really good, but when they look really bad, they look really bad at the same time too. So I truly do feel that San Francisco does check off all the boxes, but they're going to be one of the more overrated teams in the league as well too, because they don't have a top 5 quarterback. They have a good game manager. But I truly do feel, and I know I'm probably going to catch some flack for this, but I thought signing Sam Darnold was genius because at the end of the day, they know that they got themselves a efficient backup just in case this Purdy situation doesn't work out. And that's why Trey Lance had to go, because Sam Darnold was a top 5 pick too. And Sam Darnold really checks off all the boxes to be a very efficient quarterback for San Francisco because he went to USC. He's a Trojan. He's a top pick. He played on some really bad teams before he got here, but managed to still be a decent quarterback at the same time too. I'm smelling Jim Plunkett vibes here. And I feel like you have a guy with a cooked arm and Purdy who's not going to be able to get the ball 50, 60, 70 yards downfield. Everything is going to be about short passing game, medium passing game. And that might not be a recipe for winning for San Francisco if they know what's coming. With Sam Darnold, you get so many different elements at the quarterback position, and the guy is a quarterback. That's a true quarterback, and he had the hype coming into the league to be a top 10 quarterback for his future prediction. So now he's with a top 5 team. So everything kind of makes some sense right now for him to have one of the greatest comebacks in NFL history when it comes to the quarterback position, because I think he's built to actually lead this team to where they truly want to go. Purdy's just a good soldier. It's a difference in that. Sam Darnold's a good soldier, but he can ad lib as well too. And this is going to work very well for the 49ers moving forward, in my opinion, if they go to that angle. But I don't like the minus 165 to win the division, though. I'll keep it real.
You brought up some good points about Darnold, and I was reminiscent. I consider Purdy is a good game manager. That's what Shanahan wants. But if he's got to, release the hounds, we could see Sam Darnold almost a little Geno Smith this year. No expectations. He comes in after Purdy, and he just takes this, offense to another level. When you have CMC, when you have Mitchell, when you have Debo that can run, but you talked about the short passes. That's what made the 49ers famous in the 80s and 90s. It was, Jerry Rice. It was, I'm drawing blanks. Terrell Owens, 5, 10, 15-yard slants taking it to the house. The J.J. Taylors, the J.J. Stokes of the world. And Darnold will bring another level to being able to stretch the field to Ayuk, to the mailbox, to Kittle if he stays healthy. I didn't even mention George Kittle, by the way, who's sliding in the fantasy drafts because we just don't know how healthy he is and how healthy he will be, who's one of the better tight ends when healthy. So I like your idea on Darnold. The minus 165, a little chalky, but when you're looking at this division and you X out the Rams and you X out the Cardinals, I think I'd still rest my hat here, but you can get plus money when we're going next with Seattle.
All right. So we gonna go over here and talk about Seattle, and I can't wait to talk about Seattle because something about Seattle, Jeff, in my opinion, this year. It's just something about this team. And let's go ahead and get into it. Now, Seattle last season, they went 9-8. They were able to creep into the playoffs, get that 7th seed, and had to play against arch rival San Francisco. San Francisco swept them last year. Very rare San Francisco sweep Seattle during the season, and they swept them 3-0. And if anybody would have other than the Eagles, gave San Francisco a real run for their money, it was the Seahawks. And it just was, when you look at it, the 49ers went through some tough games to get to that beat down by the Eagles. They had to go through Seattle, who was ascending up-and-coming team, and then pretty much the second best team in the NFL and the Cowboy in the NFC. They had to beat them in the next round. So, it was a very trying time because they actually went against tougher and got absolutely bulldozed by the Eagles. But let me stay on topic with Seattle. Seattle, like you said, Jeff, had no expectations. Everybody had Seattle as a bad team. And then about week 2 or 3, I caught on to it. I said, they're not going to be a bad team because Geno has always been a serviceable backup for Russell Wilson. This is why they didn't go get a backup. This is why they didn't go draft a rookie. This is why they didn't need to do that, because there wasn't any point to have a guy come in here and learn on the job when I already have a quarterback that knows what he's doing. Yeah, you look at him and say, okay, he's a flop. He didn't do what he was supposed to do. You know what I mean? And he's a guy that, pretty much you look at him and you say, yeah, he's a flop. He really did not play up to what we wanted him to be. But I never blame Geno for that. I always blame Rex Ryan for that, Jeff, because Rex Ryan was the goofball that drafted him in the second round because he wanted to go ahead and be cute and piss off his starting quarterback, Mark Sanchez, and literally ruin the whole team, and then ruined his coaching career at the same time, too. So that was more of a coach having a vendetta, him and the GM having a vendetta with a player and trying to teach lessons. And what happened was everybody ruined their careers somewhat. You know what I mean? And now, and Gino had to be in the middle of that. And they had this pressure on Gino that he was going to be the New York savior. And it's not Gino's fault. It's New York's fault because they have their expectations are just too damn high. That's what it is at the end of the day. And, these guys are a team that you truly say to yourself, hey, they got the weapons. It don't matter what San Francisco thinks they have on the offensive side. When you look at offenses in this division and in this conference, Seattle's offense really is a top 3 situation, in my opinion. And I feel like you got a above average quarterback in Geno because his mental, his mind, what he knows how to do. He knows how to play the quarterback position. He knows how to be successful in this league. Then you got a good 3-headed monster in the backfield with the running game. You're going to be able to keep guys fresh in that situation. But then when you look at that wide receiver core, Jeff, you just say to yourself, exciting. You got Lockett, you got DK Metcalf, and JSN looks like he's a Pro Bowler this year. And then everybody doesn't mention this, but Noah Fant is one of the better big man tight ends in the NFL as well, too. I had him on my fantasy squad last year. He's a bench guy, but he came through pretty good for us in certain spots when I needed him to. So, you have really good players on that side, but the main thing that gets me really excited about Seattle is this: Bobby Wagner. Bobby Wagner is back on the team as the heart and soul of the defense. And then the Legion of Boom affect his return back to Seattle. They got Witherspoon, the number one, as the first cornerback off the board. Then you get JSN, first wide receiver off the board. That should tell you alone that they've been doing a hell of a job in the scouting department for Seattle, and Seattle has built this team up to be a great offensive team because they know San Francisco has built themselves to be a great defensive team. But they got to have an offense that can really attack this defense because then they are at an advantage because when it really comes down to if their defense what defense can step up better against the offense, their defense would be much better against San Francisco's offense, be against their offense if everything clicks. So I know that was a lot, but if everything clicks, then they should be good. Jeff, what are your subtle thoughts on this? And when we look at the situation, you see the over/under 8.5 going into this year, and then a division championship of plus 230. What are your thoughts on that, and what are your thoughts on Seattle moving forward?
I mean, the 8.5 again. They finished 9-8. It's in a division where you're supposed to go 2-0 against the Rams. You're supposed to go 2-0 against Arizona. They open up against the Rams. That's another one of those potential upset specials. I think the Seattle's about 5.5, 6-point favorites there. Again, if you're not going to take the Niners, then the plus 230 obviously is very appetizing because I do expect either the Niners or Seattle to win the division. Now, I am high on certain positions in fantasy, especially. Kenneth Walker got dinged up in preseason. Same with Charbonneau from UCLA. Charbonneau, since getting injured, has looked fabulous. So I like the 2-headed monster there. Obviously, DK and Lockett in Jigba. Fractured wrist or something, out at practice with a cast on. My gut tells me, this is just my opinion, he misses game 1. He will be getting closer in game 2. He will start game 3. Now, the problem with that is, if I remember correctly, Seattle's bye week is week 5. So if there are any setbacks, you can hold them out the first month, including the bye week, and get them ready for game 5. I do love the offense. Now, there is a part of me that does think there could be some Geno regression. He came on the scene last year, and for fantasy purposes and regular NFL purposes, comeback player of the year, something no one thought he would do, an amazing year. the Legion of Boom, Bobby Wagner, all their first-round picks hit. I've been picking them up as a defense. If I don't get a couple of the elite defenses, I'm just leaning on Seattle, especially with the start of their schedule this year. I think they go over the 8.5. I can see a 10-7 here all day, with maybe the 49ers, 11-6, 12-5. I got them second in this division, Pops. I like a lot of them. Pete Carroll just keeps on marching, and it's going to be definitely a fun team to watch, Pops.
All right. Well, I'm going to finish with this when it comes down to Seattle. And I feel like Seattle, in all honesty, Seattle is going to be a team that's going to be really good this year because they still have the best coach in the division. I don't care what anybody says. Pete Carroll is a guy who can really coach up any type of roster, and it was proven last year. You give Shanahan that roster, he goes 6-11. You give McVay that roster, he goes 4-13. You give Kingsbury that roster, they probably won 2 games. But you give Pete Carroll that roster, Pete Carroll will figure out a way to be either in the playoffs or at the door of the playoffs. And that's been his whole tenure in Seattle. You know what I mean? There's only been about 1 or 2 seasons where Seattle, over the last 25 years, where Seattle was really a putrid, awful team. And that just goes to show you the consistency of Pete Carroll ever since the days of when he was with your Patriots. when
eating bologna sandwiches. Bob Kraft just bought the team, and he wanted the team. I think it was during OTAs of practice. They wanted to feed him bologna sandwiches, and Pete Carroll was just like, "What are you doing?" "Well, we're serving them bologna sandwiches." And Pete goes, "Not on my watch, you are."
Right. And you see, and now Bob Kraft, he acts like he's the Ritz Carlton owners. Oh, we got everything so fancy for our team, and blah, 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 blah. But you know what? You want to treat Pete Carroll like just a whatever coach. But Parcells came in there, and you want to spoil people. Differences. You know what I mean? About who you is on that food chain. You know how it goes, Jeff. You know how it goes.
If it wasn't for Pete Carroll and Bill Parcells, there would have been no Bill Belichick and Tom Brady. So, and that's the one thing around here locally. Bill doesn't get enough credit. They want to just make sure this is Bill getting all the elite props and everything with Tom, but it was Bill Parcells that started the process.
Right. And if you know football, if you've been around for the last 50 years and know football, that's not even an argument right there. Who started the dynasty? It wasn't, everything started with that first Super Bowl against Green Bay. It didn't start when, we had that miracle game against the Rams. It started in that situation right there. But with that, we're going to go ahead and take our first commercial break. And I really, truly do like what I see here. So we will be back, and it's AFC West time. That's all I can say. It's time to talk about the AFC West. And you guys pretty much stay right where you're at, and we'll be right back to you with the NFL Bet Exchange.
Good News Only Racing Club, led by the legendary Doug O'Neill, the trainer of 2 Kentucky Derby winners, and I'll have another, and Nyquist. Also trained 2-time Breeders' Cup champ Golden Sense, who are just a part of a long list of thoroughbred champions trained by Doug O'Neill. The Good News Only Racing Club has a young core of horses to look out for in Dennis's Celery, Irish Heatwave, and Notre Dame, just to name a few. Win the day every day with the Good News Only Racing Club, a proud sponsor of the NFL Bet Exchange.
From the East and the West, you've heard others, but now you've tuned into the best. This is a Prime Wave Media production.
Tune into Big Wave Boxing every week with a brand new guest with the one and only Pop Dibiase, the primetime capper, getting the best boxing stories, best boxing angles, and the truth when it all comes down to the sweet science. Tune into Big Wave Boxing on the Prime Wave Media channel on YouTube.
All right, we are back with the Premier Sports Betting. Well, no, we are back with the NFL Bet Exchange. And it's a premier betting show as well, too, because I know one thing. Me and Jeff be giving out winners when it's time to do the regular show. And I'm still waiting for your favorite people who say that they know what they're talking about on TV and everything to really top what me and Jeff be doing over here. Because me and Jeff don't run to to everybody's favorite game. Me and Jeff try to find games that actually give you money, that you're gonna sit there and you're not gonna sweat. You can go to the mall with your wife and go shopping and know that you're gonna have your money at the end of the day. You know what I mean? It's not gonna be something that you just walk into blindly and be like, well, they've won 6 in a row, so nobody can beat them. I'm telling you, because the way that these talking heads fall in love with certain teams, that's when you know it's time to jump ship. Every time. Just quick little example. Baseball. Reds. As soon as they got to first place, everybody was, the Reds are back and they could win the World Series and the Reds can do this and the Reds can do that. The Reds was the number one team for about 3 days, and then reality came back into place, and they got cooked by the Brewers. You know what I mean? Because the Brewers, they're built to win the division this year. The Reds are playing with house money right now. It's levels to this. You know what I mean, Jeff? So
and the Reds a year ahead of schedule or two, just like Baltimore. And for Baltimore, they have the best record and second best record in baseball, best record in American League, and then lose their closer. And then who just happens to get hot at the right time? Of course, the Astros. And then again, talk about Texas, first place. And then next thing you know, they're in third place behind the Astros and the surging Seattle Mariners. So, yes, baseball has not been very, very good to me. Truth be told, we had 3 heartbreakers yesterday, and I haven't wrote the alert up today, but I am putting it on the shelf till October 1st in the playoffs. I just got a text by one of my clients and good friends, and he says, such a cruel world. He was on the Tigers today, I guess, and the Yankees scored 3 in the 9th. So that happened 3 or 4 times last night. So on to football, as they say. So.
All right. So, and you know what? Sorry, y'all. Me and Jeff just literally went off the skids a little bit, but it's cool. It's cool. You know what I mean? I know me and brother Jeff really do. It's baseball season, man. Baseball, bruh. Baseball. That's all. Baseball, bruh. Baseball. Love us some baseball is just, it's back in full bloom. I don't care what anybody says. It's the only sport that you can possibly watch this year and not have to worry about the headache of what's going on outside of the game. It's all about what's going on in the game. You know what I mean? That's all they're worried about. They're not worried about, who these guys are dating. They're not worried about any of that stuff. So that's why you got to love some baseball. You know what I mean? Because they mind their business in baseball. Only thing they worried about is the game. That's it. All right, man. We spent this is the NFL Bet Exchange. We done went into the midday Monday report. So, let's go ahead and get to it, because I know when I get to editing, I don't want to add this part into the Broncos situation. So, Broncos, Jeff. Broncos. I'm gonna let you kick this one off, bro. 5-12 last season. Did they have high expectations? I don't think so. I think
last year or this year?
Last year. I think that the owners, they were transitioning the ownership group, and I don't think that they wanted to put too much pressure on Hackett, but it just was so lousy. They had no choice to do but to do what they did. And nobody blames them for it. They actually let the guy stick around 5 weeks too long. So, it's just, I think that they got a fresh start immediately. 3rd coach in 3 years. You know what I mean? It's kind of, oh man, what are we doing here, Denver? Because Denver don't get down like this, Jeff. The 3 coaches in 3 years, you've never seen Denver be this complacent as a team ever. But as I just said, they're transitioning owners. You're getting out of the Pat Bowlen era and you're entering this new corporate era. They were more of a family ran team. Now they're more of a corporate ran team. Jeff, I'm gonna let you kick it off. What are your thoughts on the Broncos going into this season?
If we were doing this segment in June or July, I would have a different tone. I was expecting higher expectations with the addition of Sean Payton, the emergence, or let's say rebirth, of Russell Wilson. And then in the offseason and the OTAs and the practices, Tim Patrick goes down. A couple other wide receivers go down. They just traded one of their tight ends. It's a team in turmoil. Javonte Williams, I'll flip it to fantasy. I do like Javonte Williams. He is healthy again, should be starting week 1. They added Samaje Perine from Cincinnati, a good backup. I think my man crush this year was Jerry Jeudy. In some of my earlier drafts, had him everywhere, and then he gets hurt. And initially it sounded like it was a bad hammy pull. It's not that bad. I expect him to miss a few weeks. Could have been worse. So they're down to Cortland Sutton, maybe some Marvin Mims. Defense has issues as well. So my expectations have been, let's say, slowed down here. I am not as high on Russell or anything here. Their 5-12 season of last year, I think they beat that. Do they get to 500 this year? I do not expect. I think they're in that 7 to 8 win season. Depends on how quick Jeudy comes back, if he does stay healthy, in a tough division. But again, as we just did the NFC West, I think the Raiders will be far enough at the bottom, and I could be totally wrong on this, with Denver, that the emergence, there'll be a 1-2 and then a definite drop off with the 3-4 with Denver and the Raiders. But I'd say about a 7 or 8 win team tops here, Pops.
All right. Well, you know what? I like the thinking in that, and then you see where they're at. They're giving them over under 8.5, 6-1, because they're confident, but that confidence comes from having Russell Wilson. It's that simple. Let's not, Russell Wilson, doesn't matter what you think about Russell Wilson. I was arguing with people like literally every day about Russell Wilson. Oh, he's a punk, and he's a this, and he's that. Man, Future had his girl first. Who cares, dude? Who cares? Like, literally, who cares? That guy's like the perfect person ever. You know what I mean? Like, literally, like everybody. If you want to really use somebody as a role model for young black children, it's Russell Wilson. You know what I mean? It has to be Russell Wilson. You know what I mean? And Russell Wilson would be a leader in anything he does in life. You know what I mean? Not just being a quarterback for the Denver Broncos. He could be the mayor of Denver if he wanted to be. He could be, the captain of the Texas Rangers right now if he wanted to be. You know what I mean? That's how definitive, and that's how much of a great leader Russell Wilson is. And I know a lot of people's like, he must be the leader of the Russell Wilson fan club. Oh, Russ pisses me off just as much as he pisses off the rest of the world. But I respect him as a man first, though. And he's one of the people that I do feel like is one of the better role models in the league. And I felt like he was trying to put his winning ways on the Broncos, but it kept getting interrupted by a coach who didn't know what he was doing. And the coach literally looked at Russell to coach the team. I don't think anybody wanted to bring that up or say that, but I always saw Russ in the middle of even defensive huddles, talking to the defense, in the middle of an offensive line huddle, in the middle of a wide receiver huddle, because he's literally coaching the team. Nobody ever mentions this, but when a guy's talking to everybody a bit too much and we keep losing the game, he's literally doing the coach's job for him while your coach is sitting over there with his arms folded, looking like a total dunce. So Denver was a team that did not look like their usual selves. They looked like a totally different team last year. They looked like they were the Jacksonville Jaguars. You know what I mean? That type of mentality and attitude going into the game. We don't even know what we're doing. And that was terrible. That reminded me of the Browns when they went winless. We don't know what we're doing today, coach. And that's pretty bad. You know what I mean? And so I feel like with Sean Payton, you bring stability. That's exactly what they brought with Sean Payton, is a stable coach. And I feel like with that, what you do is in this situation, you really play up the veteran coach, veteran quarterback, and this could be their revenge season. They have a lot of good things working out in their favor, in my opinion, right now. And I feel like when it comes down to it, when I keep talking about best coaches and best this, that, and the third, in this division, it's about the best combination. It's about the best coach with the best quarterback. And, we got a lot of really good combinations here. Staley is still probably Staley's still a guy that's getting it. But when you look at the dynamic of Sean Payton and Russell Wilson coming together as a duo, you get really excited. And you tell yourself, you look at the defense and you tell yourself that, you know what, this is a top 10, top 5 defense. And this defense can be the reason why this team can still be a successful team this season. But that's going to have to truly be their calling card. You just called it out right now, Jeff. They lost 2 key receivers. Even though Judy's going to play, he's going to be good. He's an Alabama guy. They're tough. But Tim Patrick, you lose him again for the second year in a row. That's tough. But I think possibly knowing Sean Payton, he has some type of receiver there that ain't nobody talking about. And then they have a tight end there as well, too. I can't think of his last name right now, but their tight end is going to be one of the top tight ends in the NFL coming up next season because, Russell, that became Russell's favorite target. And
Greg
Dulich.
Greg Dulich.
Yeah, Greg Dulich. And he runs a beautiful. I think he's a better route runner than Kittle, to be honest with you. And that's a weapon right there. So losing Tim Patrick is not going to be as that big of a loss because they have the right type of tight end in place. And, Russell has always thrived with really good tight ends. So with the Broncos, I'm not going to say for their fan base it's time to get excited, but I'm going to say that, you know what, help is on the way. And you're not going to duplicate what happened last season. You're not going to be a 5-12 team again. That's not going to happen. Throw that out right now. You know what I mean? So this is a team that we do have to, say, hey, they're pretty capable of being, a surprise dark horse team that can possibly steal this division. 6-1 is a beautiful number. And they got the quarterback that can lead them to the promised land. If you got the leader, anything is possible. You know what I mean? Anything is possible, Jeff. Final thoughts?
No, I had high expectations. I was expecting a bounce back from Russ with the addition of Peyton. Peyton's coming in again, and he's getting rid of all the trash. He's bringing in his people, and it takes a year or two to regurgitate and get back up to speed. Don't forget, Sean was in the booth for a while. He wasn't losing anything in his fastball when he was with the Saints. So now he's bringing it to Denver. Again, losing Patrick 2 years in a row. Again, the addition of Marvin Mims, that's the guy that you're looking for as Cortland Sutton is over there as well. But, you're going to have to lean on a few guys, Javonte Williams, Samaje Perine, until Judy gets back up to speed. And you're going to need some help from the defense as well. And they're in a division with 3 offensive teams with Kansas City, the Chargers, and the Raiders. They're going to be able to put up a lot of points. And I think Sean's not going to want to go to these games and be playing first 1 to 30 wins. He wants to, 24-23, 21-20, especially at home. He doesn't want to get into these shootouts because Russ isn't that Russ right yet. Not that he can't be, but Denver will be at their best when they keep teams under 23 points, Pops.
And I totally agree with that statement right there. I think that we are on to this is possibly one of the toughest divisions in the NFL. It's not tougher than the AFC North, but it's going to be, you go into it's always tough going to Denver. Well, come on, let's keep it real. Any team that plays in the AFC West knows Denver is the toughest spot to go to. You know what I mean? Kansas City thinks they are, but no, I think Denver's much more tougher because you're going against elevation and you're going against screaming, loud, passionate fans who don't care what their record are. They love their Broncos. All right, so let's move on. And I'm gonna let Jeff kick it off because he loves his team so much. It's just he's just such a fan of these guys. I've covered 2 Super Bowls, had to be here with them, get to know them a little bit. But you know what though? I am a fan of the Hunt family. I will give you that. I love Clark and my boo, his daughter. What's you call it? But that's for later terms. But you know, hopefully future sugar mama's over there and everything. But let me shut up because hopefully she don't watch the show and see me talking like that. But man, love that family right there. So Jeff, go ahead and kick a little something like this. Give us your thoughts on the beloved Kansas City Chiefs.
Listen, for 2 decades, not 1 but 2 decades, I got to put up with the BS of the chicken or the egg. In Bill we trust, the greatest, exactor in the history of the NFL with Bill and Tom and Bill. Well, there's a part 2 coming, and Pat's Nation is very nervous because the Andy Reid, Pat Mahomes father-son combination is on path maybe to beat Bill and Tom here. What can you say about this Chiefs team? It doesn't matter. They lose Juju, they lose Tyreek. It doesn't matter. It's just next man up. And again, they have the one and only Mr. Patrick Mahomes. Love him or hate him, doing less commercials, Pops, just for you. Offensively, it's one of these things that you're going to look at the stat sheet after the first quarter, and Pat's going to be 9 for 11 with 8 different completions to 8 different guys who you don't even know, whether it's Richie, whether it's Rashee Rice, whether it's Sky Moore, whether it is Kadarius Toney, Travis Kelce, CEH, Jared McKinnon, Isaiah Pacheco. The list is endless, and they're a team. And yes, Arrowhead Stadium is one of the toughest, loudest places to go. Andy Reid, hands down right now, if you took a poll right now, is the best coach in the NFL. Love or hate him there. There is, I was going to say a changing of the guard, but that's the wrong answer because I don't think there will be a changing of the guard. Will they be 14-3 this year? Probably not. Maybe they get picked off 4 times. Maybe they're 13-4. Will they win the division this year? Most likely, I say yes. If they don't, well, we'll be talking about another team that could maybe surpass them, but I don't think they'll surpass them in the regular season, maybe in the playoffs. But it's the Chiefs. They go as far as Mahomes and Kelce. Kelce is that cog in fantasy land, going in the first round, going early. Baby Gronk, whatever you want to call him, he just keeps on going. And that's the one piece, other than Mahomes, of course, that has to stay healthy, and that's Mr. Kelce. The defense is good. Got still a holdout, but again, sneaky in the fantasy world. But Pops, until Pat, Andy, and Travis are not the trifecta, the 1-9 trifecta at Santa Anita, they got the bullseye on them. And I'm saying in this division, but because the AFC, as we know, is loaded this year, I'm not taking the Chiefs currently. We'll have our picks next week. Gun to my head right now, I don't have the Chiefs coming out as the AFC. I'll just leave it there.
All right. Well, you don't have the Chiefs coming out the AFC, but pretty much, man, you know me, and I'm not going to dog them out. I'm going to give them their props. Yeah, I'm going to give them their props. Beautiful stuff what they did in the Super Bowl last year. Isaiah Pacheco, awesome player. He brought a new element to the team that was very key to winning that game, and a lot of people will not talk about it, but I'll talk about it. I thought Pacheco's effect on the game, literally put them over the top to win that game. Sky Moore, another guy who came out of nowhere and had a big moment in that game. Also, Kadarius Toney, a guy who had some struggles and had some issues going on. He wound up having a big moment in that game as well too. Juju Schuster, who they lost, wound up being the best receiver in the clutch in that game. And Pat Mahomes, to me, had grown up as a NFL player. And I know everybody say, "What do you mean, grown up as an NFL player?" He grew up. He made sure that he took the game seriously. He didn't do any of the fancy stuff. He didn't do any of the Harlem Globetrotter moves. He didn't do any of that like he did in the first two Super Bowls. He went about his business, and he saw that, you know what, first half we're in a tough game, and these guys can absolutely destroy us right now if I don't put my head on this swivel and get it done. And then he performs one of the greatest opening drives of a second half that you'll ever see. They ran like 20 plays, and literally you knew right then and there that, okay, this guy is serious about what he's doing, and he's not a robot, and he's can show that he can be one of the biggest guns in the West, and he can show that he can be one of the best managers in the game. And everything came to fruition, and I have to give him his absolute props on that. Also, the defense stepped it up huge that day. Chris Jones still looking for his money, but he was a big part in them being very successful in containing Jalen Hurts in that second half as well too. So there was a lot of things that showed you that Kansas City was a great overall team. It's not one guy. It's not just the coach. It's everybody. And that's what makes them special year in and year out since Patrick Mahomes has gotten there. Well, really since Andy Reid has gotten there. That everybody literally loves playing for this team. You've never heard anybody have real complaints about playing for the Chiefs except for Tyreek Hill. But Tyreek Hill is Tyreek Hill. Come on, dude. You know what I mean? He's another AB type. He's a diva. You know what I mean? So you're gonna get that. You know, he's not as crazy as AB. I don't think, but you know what I mean, y'all. Y'all know what I mean. So Kansas City is the type of team that is gonna keep you comfortable. It's that simple. And they're a team that when you look at everything going into this season, it should probably come into play. It should possibly happen. It shouldn't be an issue. It should be there. It should be what it is. You know what I mean? But you still have a division to win. You're not guaranteed to win this division. And we all know how they looked in the first 6, 7, 8 games. They at one point they even had a losing record for just a week, but still they had a losing record. And you know, will they be a slow starter this year? I don't think they can afford a slow start this year. Not in this AFC West. You know, you just can't. And those gimme games that they slipped up on, they're going to have to win those games because those games can prove critical down the road because they're not going to just go out and just blow the doors off of the top teams in the NFL this year. They have one of the biggest targets you could ever have for a team on their backs going into this season. Them in Philadelphia I've never felt like teams have had targets this big because they damn near played the game to perfection last year, both squads. And that's why I feel like everybody had to step their game up, step their level up a little bit and make sure that they have deeper rosters. And that's how you can compete with a team like Kansas City. But I truly do feel that Kansas City is dealing with possibly the most difficult season that they've had with Pat Mahomes in the AFC West because this is a division with a lot of teams with a sour taste in their mouth about the Chiefs. Guys is getting tired of, just getting beat up by the Chiefs, every year now. And, Mahomes is a guy that is got a little cute now. And so now he feels like he can just say what he wants to anybody in the division. And, everybody kind of caught that last year. And teams remember that. Great defensive players remember that. So this season is not going to be one of these, okay, we're going to walk into the game and beat them by 30. They're going to really have to fight and claw for these wins because they did lose some pretty good players on the back end who were very vital to winning that Super Bowl as well, too. So we will see. And we know that this team has not went back-to-back either, the Super Bowl. And, well, they did the first time. Let me stop. Yeah, they did the first time. But, going back-to-back to the Super Bowl is much tougher than it is getting to the first Super Bowl. And I think that a lot of people have to understand 3 Super Bowls in the last 4 years, that is tough to duplicate, and that's already a big accomplishment in itself. So this is going to be one of their tougher seasons because the game film is out, and it's not like they don't know what's coming, and they don't have, to me, that superior piece like they've had with a Tyreek Hill. Kelsey's getting a little bit older and a little bit too besides himself. You beating up teammates at practice and stuff. Now, it's getting a little out of hand. You're more worried about the podcast than the game, So there's a lot of things kind of catching up with the Chiefs' ego, and hopefully they won't be too egotistical and find themselves back into the same shape that they are in every year.
You know what makes them more difficult? You said a lot, and what I do want to applaud you for, and I think you're spot on, is that Super Bowl, that second half. I think Patrick became that. In other words, a lot of people hated him. They hated the style, the schoolyard mentality. Here he goes, he wins a Super Bowl, then he gets steamrolled with no offensive line, a bad ankle, comes back. A Super Bowl where the Eagles played the perfect first half and just flipped the switch. They were 1 quarter away from winning the Super Bowl. And Pat did the same thing to the Eagles that he did to San Fran. Same exact thing. He was down going in the fourth quarter. So my point, what makes him more difficult this year, Pops? Again, you said there was no Tyreek Hill. He was gone last year. Well, what do? They just get rid of Juju. They just the Richies of the world, the Rices of the world, the MVSs of the world. You don't know who it is. That's the whole thing. You got Kels, you got Mahomes, you got a 3-headed backfield. You just don't know what wide receiver it is. It's not Tyreek to the mailbox. So this Andy Reid and Patrick Mahomes bonding, watching him in preseason on the sidelines with the headband, applauding everyone. He's not that spoiled brat. He's not that diva. I think he's really accepting the role. And the fact is, I think they're just getting better each year. Not that, again, they can be beat. But in the playoffs, if that kid's got the ball with time, go to the Bills game 2 years ago. If he's got time, he's going to find a way. That's all.
Yep. And I just really feel like defenses have to figure out how they're going to really defend this guy this year. And how do they go about their business? You see that you saw that the division literally invested in defense this year. The Raiders made their top pick defensive end. You know what I mean? And you look at Denver. Denver is always has been defensive heavy for a while now. And the Chargers, you already know, the Chargers probably got the best two bookends in the NFL when healthy. And that's one of the more dangerous elements. And you know what? Since we're talking about the Chargers, we're going to go ahead and wrap this on up on the Chiefs real quick. We've said enough. We can sit here and talk about the Chiefs for the next 2 hours probably because they're that good. All right. Okay, Jeff. So you got it out of me. All right, man. I wasn't the big juicy hater that you was expecting today, but we ain't started the season yet either. So we'll see. You know what I mean?
But let me just interject. I mean, again, they get the spotlight with Detroit, who's America's team this year with Dan Campbell. They're coming in on a Thursday night. They've blessed the Lions with a the only game in town next Thursday. 6.5 point dogs. Good game, under over right around 54. I mean, it's going to be a fun game. Is it going to be 30-24 final? Do you keep that Kansas City team under 30 with a shot to win? I mean, I don't think Detroit's going to go in and score 30 in Kansas City. So again, it's going to have to be defense first. It's going to be a fun game for sure, Pops.
Well, there it is. There it is. All right. So I can't wait. And see, Jeff's just jumping the gun. But I jumped the gun too because I started talking about a game. I started talking about the Commanders and Cardinals game. Now Jeff's talking about next Thursday's game. That's how excited we are for the first episode, 4th season of NFL Bet Exchange, I guess, right? That we can't wait to talk about these games and break them on down. So pretty much and now let's go back to my neck of the woods. But you know what? They play in SoFi Stadium. They're a renter of SoFi Stadium, but we know who they belong to. We know where their heart's at. And we call them the LA Chargers. But you know what? We begrudgingly still call them the San Diego Chargers. Shout out to our boy Craig Meddy. You already know, a real San Diegoan. And shout out to Hodge, miserable SD fan. You know how many Padre buddies I got? I got more Padre buddies on Twitter than I have Dodger buddies. It's hilarious to me. And when they won last year, it was just so hard to even deal with them because they were so brutal. Like, damn, man, y'all really don't like us that much. What did we ever do to y'all? You know what I mean? So that's fun. But I just had to do that because I know that they're still San Diego's team. Let's keep it real. They went 10-7 last year. Their best record under Staley. It was Herbert's best record to finish up a season as well, too. And they finished like a house on fire. Let's keep it real. This team was, I think, 6-7 at one point. And they went ahead and they won their last 4 games of the season. They won their last 5 out of 6 games to get into the playoffs. And at first you kept being like, oh, look at the Chargers. They win one week, they lose the next week. They win 2 in a row, then they lose 2 in a row. See, the Chargers always catch back up with themselves. And literally that second half of the season, they became a different team. They became a team that you could trust. They became a team that you really got excited to watch week in and week out. And Justin Herbert has really ascended to being the top passer in this league. When you look at the numbers tell you that nobody's better than Justin Herbert when it comes to the stats in the NFL, on a projection and in his short time of being in the NFL. This guy has literally been a true asset to a team that was dying for this type of quarterback. You know what I mean? And they have positioned him in the right way. They took a note out of the Bengals playbook and they said, you know what? We could draft a defensive lineman. We could draft a linebacker. We could draft a defensive back because we do need some defensive help. But you know what we're going to do? We're going to go ahead and go get who we feel was the best receiver on the board. Quentin Johnson, a guy that absolutely balled at TCU. And they said, we have to go get him because we have to get a third option for our quarterback, a viable third option, not a guy that's just somebody we drafted in the 5th round and he plays well because, he got some open looks. Quentin Johnson's a guy that can absolutely take over as a starter if somebody gets hurt. And I think Darius Davis is going to be the X factor for this group. They finally gave him a Tyreek Hill type. Now, you thought it was going to be Guyton, but Guyton's not durable enough. But you have Darius Davis here, and Darius Davis is a absolute rocket. 81-yard punt return, first touch he ever had in the NFL, absolutely incredible. And then the guy that really gets you excited is Elijah Dotson because the guy hits the corner so fast and he can really, really accelerate. And then you got Eckler still as well, too. Eckler is probably the most versatile back in the NFL, and he's a fantasy gem. We all know that. And, it's just, you just keep talking about the pieces. The offensive line, awesome. Their offensive line is really, really good. And then you got Everett, who's probably a top 10 tight end quietly. Nobody says that, but he has some of the best hands at the position out of anybody. And then I just mentioned it not too long ago. You got the best bookends in all of football. And one side is Joey Bosa, the other side is Khalil Mack. Both these guys have done historic things on the field. If they both can stay healthy for 80% of the season, the Chargers literally are a top 5 defense. That's not even up for debate, and we know that. And they're gonna need Derwin James to be big this year, and they're gonna need J.C. Jackson to play up to his contract as well too. That's the one part with the Chargers that you get a little worried about is how they look on the back end. It's not about how they look on offense, and it's not about how they look in the front seven. It's about how they look in the back end. So there's a lot of things that you are questioning with the Chargers, but there's a lot of things that you see in a positive way with the Chargers that have them leaning towards being the team to beat in the AFC West this year and possibly the team to beat in the AFC if everything can fall into place. But the Chargers are a team that always has to deal with the injury bug. So we're going to see. We're going to see. But, Jeff, go ahead and give me your thoughts. I know I just gave you a mouthful. I know it looks like I'm probably the biggest Charger backer ever, but I've evaluated every single one of these teams, and I just don't see much wrong with the Chargers. I just don't. And when you have the type of quarterback that they have, it puts you on another level. I'm sorry. It just does. So your thoughts?
Well, again, this reminds, if you look at the numbers, it's the same as Seattle. So again, if you liked the dog in the West with Seattle, well, you better come over here and do the same here. I was all smiles because, again, I talked to you backstage. At one point, Herbert was 9-1 to be the NFL MVP. In fantasy, if you don't grab the top 3 or 4, I think this is your guy. Now, what happens here very simply is Austin Eckler caught like 112 balls or something stupid last year. Versatile, 107 maybe it was. So versatile. He has Joshua Kelly. He's got Isaiah Spiller. You added a couple others over there. The problem is his wide receiving core, as good as they are, they can't stay healthy, whether it's Keenan Allen, whether it's Big Mike Williams. That's why they added Quentin Johnson. On defense, again, their corners are the ones that are always getting hurt. You know, you talked about James, you talked about Jackson. Again, you need a healthy Bosa and Khalil, return of the Mac. I mean, I have high expectations for this team. And again, you need the perfect storm. They need to stay healthy. They're ascending in the right direction. And of course, the addition of the OC from Dallas, now Herbert's right-hand man. And again, keep that head coach from having to make stupid calls on 4th and 1 from their own 25 in the first quarter and stupidity like that. Take the 3, don't go for it, yada, yada, yada. Again, this is the team that if anyone picks off Kansas City, I think it's the Chargers this year. And again, if they don't pick them off and Kansas City does win the division, I think the Chargers will be right on their heels. And yes, I think that they are definitely making the playoffs. So put the yes on the playoffs for the Chargers, yes on the over on 9.5 on the Chargers, and you can sprinkle a little beer and pizza money on them to win the division, maybe win the AFC, and maybe we go back in history, Pops, where this Chargers team was like 18-point underdogs to San Francisco, and maybe even do an exacta of maybe San Francisco and the Chargers in the Super Bowl. Hint, hint.
Hey, that would be a fun Super Bowl right there. A lot of people would be very excited about that one, and it would be in Vegas too. And you know what make that Super Bowl really exciting, Jeff, is that they will be playing in the Raiders' house. So you know the jokes would be absolutely classic. You know what I mean? You know the jokes would be absolutely epic about playing in the Raiders Stadium. So, you know, we will see. That sounds like it's going to be a lot of fun. But the Raiders, I think they got dreams. They got dreams of playing in their stadium.
No chance.
But you know what? The Raiders are nothing but the Raiders have became a team that's not really even an NFL team anymore. They're actually a attraction. They're a piece of entertainment because literally the Raiders have became Tony Bennett. Come watch the Raiders on Sunday at 1:00 as they play the Chargers.
Well, it's like when I'm out there in Vegas in March, during the hockey season, you see all the road teams, so you know who the Knights are playing that day, whether it's the Red Wings, whether it's the Avalanche, the Bruins, or whatever. Everyone's walking around in town with the away team, and it's the same thing in the NFL, and their prices are so stupid. Never mind, you can't even park there, but that's for another show. My point is, it's the road team. It's a destination. If you're a Patriots and the Patriots are going to Vegas in November, you take a weekend out to Vegas to go check out the Patriots and Raiders, where, yeah, they have a great following, but it's not like the old, stadium where they're all dressed up. It's more corporate America, and, the road team's got 35-40% in there as well. So I can make this real quick and short and sweet for the Raiders. Very simply, it's a coach that will not be there next year. It's a wide receiver with Devontae Adams that's nicked up, that doesn't want to be there right now. It's a quarterback that they signed, Jimmy G, that the over-under should be 5 games if he's going to play more than that. I think Brian Hoyer is a backup. It's a running back, Josh Jacobs, who led the NFL in rushing last year, that held out, did get paid, who's going to rush back to get ready for week 1, who will probably be injured by week 3. They lose their tight end, Darren Waller. They add Jacoby Myers. It's a team in disarray, a defense with a lot of holes. One of the best kickers in the game with Mr. Carlson. But whatever their under-over is, I'd go under. I got them finishing last in this division. And I got Mr. Josh McDaniels coaching his last official full year in the NFL as a head coach.
Yeah, because you know what? I really feel like Josh McDaniels is a college coach. Like, he definitely is a college coach because he wants to control people and he wants to be the end-all, be-all. He wants to be the dictator, all that good stuff. And that is fairly suited for college right there. So I would say this. Once he fails with the Raiders this year, he will probably become the head coach of Boston College. How about that? Why don't we put him on Boston College real quick? Because Boston College would be stupid enough to bring him in right now. You know that? Because, well, actually, no, they have smart people there. So, no, they probably wouldn't do that. I would think that, you know what, they probably would make him start a little bit down the bit of the totem pole a little bit. They'll probably put him with one of the worst teams in a conference, in a power conference, not with a top team in a power conference. You got to put him somewhere where he can really have some say, because you're not going to go to Ohio State until you're not gonna get away with what you get away with in the NFL at Ohio State. You're not gonna get away with it at Michigan. You're not gonna get away with it at any place that's a true blue blood of college football. You know what I mean? So he might want to take his services over to the local college called UNLV as well too. But Raiders, you guys already know, sentimental with the Raiders. Me and the Raiders have got a great relationship. We got a back and forth relationship. I'm a LA Raiders. I was that was fun in the 90s. It was a lot of fun. 80s as well too. Oakland, a lot of fun. But Las Vegas is the Raiders just being a good, historic act. It's almost like, do they have actors out here? Because the way the Raider games finish at home, it's literally like they put a script together to finish up the game, because every single one of their games are close. Like, every single one is close. Like, you're not going to get out of that part. But the Raiders, to me, when you look at everything with the Raiders, nothing is sexy about the Raiders. 20-1 to win, 20-1 to win the division. Raiders, 20-1 to win the division. The Raiders and Cowboys and 49ers too, they have the type of fan bases that do not care where the team is sitting at. They will bet on you. So pretty much if they have the odds at 20-1, they're not getting any money on the Raiders, because Raider fans are even with the idea that this ain't a Super Bowl year. And the Raiders are always Super Bowl or bust every single season. It don't matter what the roster is. And pretty much right now, the Raiders are in position to set themselves up to bring in their next rookie quarterback. I think that's exactly what they're doing right now. They're gonna try. Okay. All right, Raider fans. It's not like they're just gonna lay down. Okay. But once we get to the point to where we know they're not going to make the playoffs, they'll have that kid in there, the Aiden O'Connell, the rookie. They'll have him in there, and they'll probably be ready to say, "Oh, he's going to be the next guy up for our team," and that probably won't weigh true at all. So the Raiders are really stuck. You know what I mean? And there's not much to talk about because the Raiders are not attractive at all. There's nothing good about them. You got Jimmy G, who's at the twilight of his career. You got Josh Jacobs, who's already disgruntled, and all he's going to think about is getting that monster contract. He might have a good season. Most likely, he's not going to do well because he started the camp way too late. Running backs have to be in camp so they can get the things on them. He didn't do that. Devontae Adams has already checked out. Let's just keep it real. Devontae Adams is checked out because we've had 3 incidents with Devontae. And literally, when Devontae walked out the first preseason game, I caught what was going on. Devontae does what Devontae wants, and the Raiders, you going to accept whatever I want. You know what I mean? I'm going to do what I want until you get rid of me because I don't care because y'all don't care. So you have that. The Raiders have one of the worst offensive lines coming into this season as well, too. And then when you look at that defense, Crosby, I'm going to keep it real, overrated. He's a good player. He's not a great player because he over pursues way too much for a guy who's supposed to be a top tier defensive end. He always misses the mark in a lot of games. He could probably get 7 sacks a game, but he misses the mark 6 times to get 1 sack. And that's not, to me, a great player. That's a good player that knows how to rush a passer. That's a situational player. Chandler Jones is old. Let's keep it real. And then the rest of that defense is absolutely atrocious. And if the Raiders can't play any defense, they're not going to be able to win any games. And that's been the problem for for pretty much the last 20 years. So if you're not going to play any good defense, then you're not going to win anything. Derek Carr wasn't your problem. Your defense was the problem. And then to back that up, your coach is even worse because he literally quit on his quarterback second half of the season. They were still chasing the playoffs. And then the guy won 6 in a row for you. And you still didn't like him. So that just goes to show you that we have a real power struggle going on with the Raiders. And we have an owner that's too busy trying to be popular with the city of Vegas. So with this, the Raiders are absolutely fried, fish fried this year. I would have said cooked, but fried's even better because they are in the deep fryer right now. And boy, oh boy, they are going to be very tasty for the rest of the AFC West and the AFC.
No doubt about it. No doubt about it. I mean, I enjoy doing these both Wests. I think they're kind of built similarly. I think you got the Chiefs and the Chargers, and then a drop off between Denver and obviously the Raiders. And then in the NFC, again, you have the 49ers in Seattle, and then you've got a big drop off with the Rams in Arizona. So they're built the same. Again, I think both favorites win the divisions. 49ers in Kansas City, but I could sprinkle a plus 230 on the Chargers, and you can convince me to take a plus 230 on Seattle because the Rams in Arizona are going to be nowhere to be found. So it's going to be interesting. But again, I think we've covered now all the divisions, and I think we're set for next Tuesday. Prime time.
All right, man. We don't want to say it too much because Deanna probably bring himself out here and be like, "Hey, man, I own the rights to that," even though it's a word that's in the dictionary and pretty much is owned by television. So prime time. So pretty much it is what it is. But Jeff, thank you. I know we went over a little bit longer than we usually do, but you know what? I'm so excited about this NFL season coming up. We got college football going on today. And when I already do a show before I do another show, I can just go. So pretty much thank you very much for your time and everything like that, Jeff. And if you sat with us throughout the whole show, thank you for your time as well, too. And don't worry, I'm going to break all this up for you so you don't have to sit there and try to watch 90 minutes of us jibber jabbering. I'll get you straight to the point. But all in all, I want to thank you guys so much. We'll be back, Tuesday?
Tuesday. We'll be live at 10 o'clock, or was it 9:30? Or 9:30 prep and then 10 o'clock show? Yeah, we'll be in the studio at 9:30, 12:30 my time. We'll be live by 12:45, 1 o'clock tops.
Yep. So you guys be ready with your questions, all that good stuff. And I think possibly I don't know, maybe me and Jeff might bless you guys with a daily fantasy, on each side, see if we can kind of go at it. But we'll have to organize that a little bit more. But I'm going to let Jeff get the opportunity to give us his over-unders. I'm going to email you what I have, so then you can send me something back. So then we can both just be able to tell people about who we had overs and under wins. So, it just isn't me. You know what I mean? So pretty much, and it was going to take up another 15 minutes. So we'll just save it for the next show. So pretty much, thank you so much, Jeff. Any shots out that you want to send before we wrap this thing up?
Just everyone. It's a new year. It's a new start, fresh beginning. Me and Pops both crushed it last year. I think I was about plus 25 units. Pops was right around plus 20, somewhere in that neck of the woods. Every week is a new week. So if you have a great first week and you're walking around like you're Jimmy the Greek or something, well, the NFL can smack you down to reality real quick. So you don't want to get over your skis. You want to stay amongst your means, and if you can set a bankroll, please do. Never chase. Remember, Sundays, I call them quicksand Sundays for a reason. We'll get more into that. Enjoy the college football tonight and this weekend. On week 1, I'll be live at the BC game against Northern Illinois this week, working there. But other than that, Pops, again, excited for week 1 in the NFL on Tuesday.
All right. So I'm excited, man. I can't wait. And thank you guys so much for tuning in today. I'll be back in about 2 hours, but I won't be on here. I will be on the radio. So you guys can listen to me and Mike Abadir on the Voice America and hear us just, rant on. Me and Mike just be up there ranting, baseball talk, NFL talks, just sports talk in general. But you guys make sure to tune in for that one as well, too. It's been a fun, exciting day, and I can't wait to get back on that one as well, too. But thank you guys so much. We'll be back on Tuesday. Make sure that you tune in. I will remind you of that as well, too. And with that, this is the NFL Bet Exchange, and we bid adieu. Toodles, and we're out of here. Bye-bye.
Thank you for tuning in to the NFL Bet Exchange, where the sharpest bets are laid. This show was